and welcome to the Everyday Board Game Podcast with your hosts, Daniel.
And Daniel.
Daniel, we're actually wearing different shirts for an episode.
I know, right?
Yeah, it's about time. Viewers of the last couple episodes might notice, commonality. It was purely by coincidence. We just all happened to be wearing the same thing on the same days, Definitely not because we filmed multiple episodes.
On one episode, we wore 2 different shirts.
Oh, that's true. That's true. I forgot about that part. Talk about continuity errors. I used to watch a lot of movies and stuff, and I was really big into Easter eggs, and I loved watching like bloopers that were included in the film, or continuity errors, or just different like plot holes. I loved stuff like that. I don't know what it is about a movie that I could really enjoy, but then you find out of course everyone knows the Star Wars, the guy who the stormtrooper who bonks his head on it.
Yeah.
It
I was just thinking of something because you just said I like watching movies. I'm like,
no, I like watching movies for that reason. Probably for all the wrong reason, right? Or rumors or urban legends about movies and stuff like that. I love stuff like that. And I know I'm not alone, because one of the things that Star Wars they actually included a thunk sound effect in one of the more recent versions as the person is walking into the gate before it comes up, and there's a loud thunk. Because now it's it's pretty obvious. Everyone knows it. Why hide it,
Yeah, now, I like the Easter eggs and stuff like that. There's certain things I pay attention to. I know you're not a fan of the Harry Potter series.
Nope, not at all.
But there's a thing in the... the second episode where there's a big blooper, or the second movie, there's a big blooper in there where he broke his arm on the scene, but he's still holding himself up with said broken arm when he's trying to run away from the bludger.
Oh, so, yeah.
There's bloopers in that as well. So
the one that I remember, on that same aspect of somebody hurting themselves during their... Oh, yeah. Of course, the Goonies has all sorts of crazy extra stuff. My interesting one is Leonardo DiCaprio, when there's I forget what movie it is. It might have been Django Unchained.
Yeah, it's Django Unchained.
Where he's screaming and he slams his hand on the glass and continues the scene as he's bleeding.
Yep.
And he's just he just carries on and never breaks character once. Dude knows how to act. I am a fan of Leonardo DiCaprio. Not genuinely. I think he's an amazing actor, and especially knowing that he can pull off a scene that intense and not break character, even though stabbing himself. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, I mean he's a good actor. His human qualities are a little different.
Yeah. Oh sure. Every actor is questionably, questionable human capability. How do I say it? Questionable human motive, I guess, is a way. But I'm
Crate
sure
says it exactly. Person, not so much. Yeah, there is some iffiness there.
Oh sure. Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I don't watch movies, so who knows?
Yeah. Well, he's the embodiment of the Matthew McConaughey character in Dazed and Confused, where he talks about dating high school students because even though he gets older, they stay the same age. He's living that. He's the living personification of that.
That's why I don't watch movies. Maybe I'll go home and watch a magic show or something. That's way less weird, apparently. Oh, man. Well, let's get into this episode today. It was off on a completely random tangent. Right off the bat. We didn't even have a tangent to go off of. We just went off.
Randomly went there. You started talking about Easter
rails. So now we're trying to pull the train back out of the lot, onto the rails.
I got a little bit of an Easter egg, since this is our anniversary cycle that we were doing.
Well, let's talk about it.
The very first episode of this cycle, I wore our new shirt, and at the very end of this cycle, I'm wearing the last shirt. So.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, and we discovered today, we were planning for this episode, but we filmed a bunch of episodes prior to this. We gotta say, this is our 200th episode.
Yeah, so... It was
200 episodes.
200th recorded episode, so... That's what's crazy about this one, too. And it was actually supposed to be the next episode, but then we had a nice little special episode that will be airing before this episode, so lucky for you guys. This ended up being, in our anniversary cycle, the 200th recorded episode of a podcast.
That's right. So we hope you guys have enjoyed us through all this years. That's a crazy feat. I mean, I know a lot of podcasts, a lot of different things. it's huge, right? 200 of anything is a lot of anything. We talked for at least an hour on most episodes. That means that you and I have chatted for at least 200 hours, which doesn't sound that much over 4 years now. All of a sudden, 200 hours is like less than 10 days worth.
Yeah, but you also got to think about it. It's actually more than that because our top 8 debates sometimes push 2 hours.
That's true, and some of our interviews have been 3.
Yeah.
So
when we did the interview with Kurt Covert, I actually had to break it down, the video wise, into 3 separate videos of an hour length each.
Wow, no kidding. Oh my goodness. Well, we hope you've enjoyed it. I mean, we're going to be airing a game show episode or a bonus episode probably pretty soon too as well.
And that's on the YouTube side. So
on the YouTube side.
The audio listeners, if you want to find it, you can go to our YouTube channel.
Yep.
You'll find reviews there now too.
That's right. So check that out. We figured the short videos don't quite make enough sense to put on the podcast
exactly
because it's not really a podcast. It's just
the big part of it too is there is a lot of dead air when we're doing like the game shows and stuff like that.
Yeah,
when we're sitting there thinking, hold on. Yeah, so it's just like there's no reason to release that in the audio side unless I do some heavy editing. And I already do enough editing. I don't want to do that anymore. I've had to edit 200 episodes, so.
That's true. I mean, that's not anything to scoff at, of course. And yes, absolutely, 5 extra subs, definitely justified. Thank you for the gift, Creative
Thank you
Chaos. So much. Our admin for a reason. So, let's get into today's episode. But before we do, I just want to remind you, sometime during the episode, be on the listen for this contest. We're doing a giveaway for 2 copies of matches to 2 lucky fans. We'll be getting a copy of this distinctive card game that some say is the hottest game of the year.
And pay attention. This will be the last episode that has a code phrase in it for the giveaway. So remember, if you want to get a part of this, pay attention to the next segment.
All right. So with that being said, we're going to be breaking down Carcassone and give us our brainstorm ideas here at the end of the episode. Give you some recommendations on what we're going to be saying on one of my personal favorite games, if not my personal favorite, which it is. Carcassone. Yeah, it is. If anybody's listening to the Top 100s, this has been number 1 consistently. I love this game, and I can't wait to give you some recommendations because of it. But with that being said, Daniel, what have you been doing outside of gaming lately?
So I wanted to, especially now that this is the 200th episode, I wanted to kind of give a big update onto what's going on with me. And the big thing I want to talk about outside of gaming is my health journey. There was a point in the podcast, if you noticed, that we had to do a little bit of break back in, I believe, the end of September, early October, because I was unhealthy. I had a bad checkup, and I had to start getting the ball rolling. And so what's going on there is I put myself on a diet restriction. I'm doing a low-carb, high-protein diet. Because of that, I just had a 6-month checkup recently because my doctors wanted to keep an eye on my...
That's right. You told me that you were going in.
Yeah, so I had a big 6-month checkup. The blood pressure has down massively, so my high blood pressure has gone down. The weight loss is the biggest thing here. I've lost over 60 pounds now.
Ooh, that's awesome.
Yeah, so I don't have to see the doctor again for another 6 months. So that's a positive. What else is going over here? And again, it's like I said, it was a medical necessity. I had a bad checkup and I really needed to get it under control. So I was at 308. I'm at 247 now is where I started.
That's awesome.
So people may notice, like when we're putting up some of the past episodes that we recorded and back up, like, so we're talking about the game show and stuff like that. So you'll see that I'm a lot heavier than what I was, what I am now. And it's just because I'm taking it one day at a time. I am restricting my diet. I still get to have some of the stuff that I like. I just don't have it as much. Like I don't eat a lot of candy. The one candy I keep on stash on me right now is peanut butter M&Ms because I can count the carbs on those. Another thing too is a lot of my sugar that I'm getting nowadays is from fruits and vegetables and stuff like that. And I've cut back on my red meat intake because my cholesterol wasn't well either, among other things that I don't want to get too much into. But yeah, my blood pressure has come down. My cholesterol has come down. I'm not out of the woods yet. I still got a lot of work, especially since I'm about to turn 40. So there's a lot of work that's still going on. I'll turn 40 in August. So Next time I see my doctor will be about 2 months after my 40th birthday, and we're going to go from there. Like I said, I don't have to see them for another 6 months, which makes me happy. And so I thought it would be good to give you all an update of how things are going for me. And it's going going really, really well. I got to take it one day at a time, and I got to keep working on it. My hope is to get down another 20 to 30 pounds by the time I go see my doctor again and see where that goes. I wanted to get to about the 200 to 220 range is my goal now. Originally was to get to 250. Now that I'm under it, my new goal is 230, and then after that, maybe down to the 200 range. So it's a work in progress.
That's awesome, man. I mean, and you've been keeping me posted, more or less. You haven't given me this big announcement. This is catch me off guard. But, I mean, like, that's fantastic. It goes to show, it's like, look, like, just... Like, you don't have to cut out everything, right? And I'm no expert, of course. You know more about this than I do.
Yeah.
But it's very clear. It's like, like just a little bit of maintenance, just making sure that you're just sticking true to what your goal is one of the biggest parts of it, right?
And the big thing about it, too, is that when I'm home and I'm cooking the food for myself, I weigh everything out. So I have a food scale. I weigh out how much vegetables I'm getting, how much meat I'm getting, how much... any of what I'm intaking into my body, I'm weighing it out. Yeah. When I'm going on the roads and stuff like that, you saw it when I was in Louisville. Yeah. I specifically was like, okay, I got to do this. If I'm gonna order these, this is how I gotta. And I have an app. It's called My Net Diary, I think is what it is. That I use it to help track my food intake, how much carbs I'm taking in, how much calories I'm eating, because I still need to maintain my caloric intake. I try to eat about between 2,000 to 3,000 calories a day. And so it's just about paying attention. Like, I've cut back on sweets. I very rarely eat ice cream nowadays. Like I said, the only candy I really keep on me is peanut butter M&Ms, because I had a big issue with, like, the sweet tooth. And then I found fresh fruit to be a better palate cleanser for me as well. So that's my goal, is to get down to 200 pounds or so at a 6 foot range. That's not a bad weight. No. And so we'll see what happens there.
Yeah, 60 pounds is, I mean, honestly, like, that's huge, right?
Yeah.
I can't live, like, if I lost 60 pounds, like, mathematically I probably could. I'd be really, like, it would be really unpleasant, right?
Yeah, you'd be scrawny.
Yeah, I'd be more than scrawny.
You'd be a beanpole.
Yeah, that's right. I wouldn't be much. Like, it would be pretty pathetic, honestly. No, that's fantastic. If you support it, by all means, give them a shout out whenever you get a chance. That's awesome. And I know, I'm impressed. Like, keep up the good work.
Yeah, I'm working on it. It's one day at a time.
Yep, that's right. And one day, just keep going. You got this. All right. So me outside of gaming, I've been really focused on work lately. Mm-hmm. So those of you who listen to the podcast know that I'm an educator, and I work for a public school system here locally. And we just started our state standardized testings, and let me ask you a question. How were you as a tester? Like, were you, like, comfortable taking the test? Did you have anxiety?
When I was in, like, elementary school and stuff like that, I was much easier when it came to taking tests. As I got into middle school and high school, and my personal life, because I had to take a lot of tests because I was in the medical field, I got a lot more anxious, especially as I got older, because those tests are a lot heavier skewed than, say, as an elementary student.
Right.
So like, I had to take a shot, and I'm letting people know about this. This is my little trick. When I had to go take my testing to get my EMS license, I took a shot of alcohol before I went in there just to calm my nerves.
I thought you were about to say before your driver's test.
No. Just for my EMS test, because it was one of those things that it cost me like $200 to take that test, and two, if you failed, you'd have to pay another $200, and you only have so many fails before you have to retake the courses. So.
I can agree with that. And Creative Chaos said, tests are super easy peasy. Yeah, and when I was younger, when it came to testing, I remember I was always really comfortable with testing. Like, I guess I was a lucky one. I didn't even know what test anxiety was when I was growing up. Mm-hmm. So, I've always been super comfortable with it. Tests, easy, especially the standardized testing. I remember that was a big thing for me. We used to take the ITBS test, which is the Iowa Test of Basic Skills. I knew I had basic skills, so I was fine. And I was just excited because it came from my home state, technically, Iowa. So, like, cool. Apparently that's a thing. I had no idea. But now most states do kind of their own or do like a national whatever. But they were easy enough, and I remember those were like showing up to school and just taking tests for multiple hours and then not having to do actual work. Like I genuinely enjoyed them.
Yeah.
And then like the teachers would give us like snacks and stuff for like it's like, man, I normally have to bring my own. Like, what is this? This is weird. And so I always took it for granted because I was like, I enjoy testing. Like I'm actually weird. I actually kind of like tests. They're pretty fun for me.
Yeah.
But as a teacher now and as an educator, you hear about like people who have test anxiety and people who have like these, are just generally nervous about it or just like them and all these different things. And I never thought I would see that many different personalities about it.
Yeah.
But now I do every day. We have 500 or so students at our school, and 2/3 of, or about half of them, about 250 students, take that test. And so we have to watch it. So we have them split into rooms. We're watching them test. We're helping them out, and I had only ever heard of it, but today there was one of my students, and of course I can't name who they are, but they were having a very bad day, like clearly, and for about an hour and a half after the test had ended for everybody else, we had to move a certain number of them to one room so we can keep an eye on them, and they were absent earlier that week, so they had some makeup tests to do, and the whole time that we're all waiting for this student to finish, he's sitting there clicking on and off the bold typing button. Just sitting there doing that. And I'm thinking, it's like, man, he must not, like, maybe he's confused, maybe he's thinking, whatever. And then he just goes to the next screen and just does it some more. And he's just farting around,
Yeah.
And I've never felt that sense of frustration before watching a kid who I know is a smart kid.
Mm-hmm.
Like, obviously he has other issues, but he's a smart kid.
Yeah.
And the fact that he was just sitting there just absolutely doing that and wasting his time. And then right when he knew that it was time, like, he was going to miss his recess if he didn't finish up, he just clicked randomly answers and then submitted the test before we could even say anything about it.
Oh,
granted, we can't stop him anyway.
Yeah.
And that's not irregularity, but it's like, that was incredibly frustrating. I was thinking, it's like, out of 250 kids, why do I care so much about this, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I couldn't help but think, it's like, man, like, it's not like that's not going to get averaged out. Of course it will.
Yeah.
But from an educator standpoint, that's been really on my mind lately, is that it's hard to see a kid that frustrated with life, going through that time and just, farting it off because they're like, oh, I just don't feel like testing. I hate being here today, whatever.
Yeah.
And then completely tank it because that's going to hurt him in the long run.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Like, the middle schools will see that and they're like, well, he's not very good at this at all.
Yeah.
And all to prove what, and I know that that's a concept outside of what he's thinking of. I know he's not trying
well,
to
he's young enough right now, but it's also, you got to think about the fact that New Mexico is already one of the worst
right.
Educations. I think we're 48, 49 out of 50
comparatively,
states.
yeah.
And I'm just saying, it's just, and they're going to look at that and they're not going to try to fix it because they've already given up on the kid. Unfortunately, I'm not saying that all educators are that way.
Right.
It's just the way the budgeting works, and so
right.
they're going to concentrate on the ones that are going to give them the scores and stuff like that. And,
right.
And it's I go back to, who was it, George Bush, when he had the No Child Left Behind Act.
Right.
So many children got left behind because more people were more worried about the testing and emphasizing on getting the better scores than actually getting to the students.
Exactly. Like, it wasn't measured via growth. It was measured via, like, oh, what high score can you get? Exactly. It doesn't matter how far you went to get there. It's like, if you made, like, 3 grades worth of growth in 1 year, that's doesn't matter. You're still not on par, so whatever, right? And it's super infuriating to watch a student do that. But at the same time, what was also pretty awesome is that I'm the technology teacher there.
Yeah. And
they had me be ready at all times so I could troubleshoot any computers that are causing fires. And we've done enough preload and enough practicing and enough updating to the systems that we had very few problems.
That's good.
And it was even better because we have some teachers who are just, they're not friends with technology. Like that's not their favorite thing to do. And they're fine with it. I don't want to sound like I'm putting them down because I'm not.
I take it they're older teachers that have been doing this for about.
I mean, you can assume what you want, but the truth is like they're just that's not their thing, right?
Yeah.
And they have taken the reins, to figure out like how to actually troubleshoot this stuff. And they would never have done that had we not like emphasized like, hey, look, this is so important.
Yeah.
Even though you hate this and we get it, we got to do this. So it's all one team. Let's do this.
Exactly.
And they so few road bumps along the way, which was awesome. We had teachers who were preparing it beforehand. We had ones that were practice testing with the software, getting themselves familiar with it, going over the scripts, like just without any prompting. It was cool. So my mind has been on schooling a lot lately,
Well, especially after
job,
the standardized testing last year, where like half your computers were going down during that phase. So,
well, I mean, that was a couple
I get
years
why
back.
you're.
It was very nerve-wracking at first, and that's the truth is that it's not that we can't do it analog, right?
Yeah,
we can do testing digital, but we can do it analog as well. It just if we do it analog, you're gonna have to print out the whole test.
Yeah, well,
and you're gonna have to secure the documents, and you're gonna have to verify it, and you're gonna have to basically keep it under lock and key, right?
Yeah.
There's a whole hassle of doing that versus just, hey, just take a digital test, right? And so it's convenient, but we had a scare for a moment. Not to give people behind the scenes of what just happened, but we had an internet cut out here in a minute, or not an internet, but the software cut out. Right before the test this Monday.
Oh no!
For about 5 seconds, the internet just boop, completely cut out for everyone in the school.
Oh no!
And my heart just sank for a moment. Like no, and then all the teachers were like, "Hey, did the internet go out?" I'm like, "Hold on, did it?" And I look at my phone and there's no signal. I'm like, "Oh no." What are we doing? And then it slowly trickled back in after a couple seconds. But that was like so stressful for the 5 seconds that it happened. Oh my god!
I honestly believe it. Who do you guys have the contract under? Xfinity?
Oh, I have no idea. It's a T1 line. We have fiber optics. So
it doesn't matter. Do you have it under Xfinity?
I don't think so. No, I think it's a separate fiber optic company.
That's weird. I don't know if there is a separate. It's either that or it's CenturyLink, and I don't think CenturyLink's fiber optics.
Those are only consumer. We have commercial lines that are there's plenty.
Xfinity is the one that does the commercial out here.
There's more.
Okay.
Yeah, and I know that because the call centers we used to work at, Xfinity couldn't pull that off. We have some pretty heavy duty. T1s.
When was the last time you worked at the call center?
That was 15 years ago.
Yeah,
that's what I'm saying.
Xfinity.
But no, at that time, we already had that.
No, Xfinity bought out all the fiber optics really out here.
What?
Yeah.
How do you know this information? Where have you heard this?
It was in the newspaper.
I need to check you. I need to fact check you, sir, because I don't know about it.
But I remember reading an article about it that they bought up a lot of the fiber optics out here.
I believe it.
Yeah, so...
But I'll look into it. But either way, I mean, it's the fact that it just did that.
It's either that or it's Verizon, which is just as bad. Verizon was the one that was at the hospital I used to work at, and they cut out all the time.
But also keep in mind, right, we went from a school of just desktops that were, the computer lab to 500 devices all on Wi-Fi.
Yeah, and you guys get
right after COVID.
And they're pretty much tablets, too. It's not just like the normal clamshell laptops that everybody's used to. It's more of those that...
They're touchscreens or all that stuff, right? And they're not amazing, but still, 500 devices running off of Wi-Fi at a time is not an easy thing for our internet. That's not an easy thing for
even
any
with
internet.
Fiber optic.
Yeah, right, exactly.
And it's not just 500 devices. You also got to think about the fact a lot of people put their stuff on the Wi-Fi as well.
Oh, yeah. There's more than that. All the staff, I'm sure, are connected to Wi-Fi. I have T-Mobile, and I don't have a signal out there, so...
Yeah,
I'm on Wi-Fi
I believe
at all times.
Which is weird because T-Mobile is really good elsewhere. So
everywhere except for that one school and my house.
I have really bad
blind spot on both.
The hospital, the one over off of Lohman, has really bad spotty because Verizon's their tower and it sits on top of the hospital. So T-Mobile has the worst service there.
Oh, I believe that. They probably send out wrap it in a Faraday cage and you only get Xfinity or Verizon out here. Too bad. All right. Well, let's get into today's episode. But before we do that, we teased it at the top of the episode. we are going to be giving away 2 copies to 2 lucky fans. 1 copy each, just to clarify that.
Yes.
2 fans that are in the contiguous United States, we're going to give them a copy of Matches from Thing 12 Games, one of the hottest games of the summer. It's smoking, as Creative Chaos said. This game, super cool card game, amazing production. Even if you don't like the game, this production is still going to make you wow. Because this is amazing. I hope you like the game too. But even if you don't, this is still worthy. It's hey. Look, and it's also really thick and heavy. You can use it to take out intruders. That's really good quality. Beautiful production. Anyway, we've been giving clue phrases every single time. Mm-hmm. So let's talk about how you're going to enter this contest. Not if you're going to enter, how you're going to enter this contest. The first way, if you email us every week, we're going to give a passphrase. We're going to give you that passphrase here in a moment, but email us at everydayboardgames2020@gmail.com, and in the subject line, put contest, and in the body, you're going to put this passphrase that we're going to say in a moment. The other ways you can get tickets, we've done this for 4 times. This is the 4th episode. Go listen to our previous ones. Enter in the passphrase for those. Everyone gets a chance. You get a ticket every single time you enter in that passphrase. Also, if you are a follower here on twitch.tv/everydayboardgames, you get a ticket as well. And also, especially if you're a subscriber, you get 3 additional tickets on top of that. Go check us out on youtube.com/everydayboardgames and subscribe there. I forget the term, but just subscribe there. That'll get you a ticket. And also follow us on Instagram, instagram.com/everydayboardgames, and that will give you a ticket. For a total of 10 tickets, if you've done all of that, you will have a chance to win a copy of Matches. And if you want, I'll even sign it for you. Whew, that's a lot to say. Daniel, what is today's passphrase?
Today's passphrase is burn, baby, burn.
So that's right. Enter an email, everydayboardgames2020@gmail.com. In the subject line, put contest. In the body, put burn, baby, burn, with a way for us to contact you if you are a winner. We'll be pulling a winner here in a few weeks after we get all the submissions. Give our podcast listeners a chance to catch up on this episode as well, in case you don't watch us live or on the YouTube uploads. And there you go.
Yeah.
We'll announce the winners here on the episode.
Sounds good to me. And again, it's going to be 2 games a giveaway to 2 separate winners.
That's right. 1 game each. Disco Inferno would have been a good one, actually. That would have been great. Thanks for giving me an idea. That might be a promo card. All right. With that being said, let's get into today's episode. Today, we're breaking down my personal favorite game of all time. And what a day to do this.
Brainstorming. Not breaking down. Brainstorming.
That's right. Brainstorming one of my favorite games of all time. My personal favorite, Carcassone, made in 2000. Spiel des Jahres winner in 2001. And we got to give you recommendations based on these, on our 5 criteria, on our 200th episode, and giving away a copy of my game. Man, today's good for me.
2 copies.
2 copies of my game. Well, thanks for blowing the wind out of my sails, sir. I was excited, now I quit. Nobody gets to hear my Actually, no, that's a lie. We're going to be talking about 5 different recommendations. We break down our criteria. If you're familiar with our show, you know immediately what those 5 criteria are because you're sick of hearing us break them down. And we're going to give you recommendations on each of those 5 criteria. Total of 10, up to 10 games that we will be recommending to you. If you like Carcassone, then you'll like this. And the fuel out of my fire, that's right. And even if you don't like Carcassone and you might have liked parts of it, this will be games that you can be recommended for as well.
Yes. I agree wholeheartedly. I think all of these kind of give you a Carcassone feel in different ways.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's tell people what Carcassone is about.
That's your game. You talk about it.
So Carcassone is a classic game where you are laying down tiles. The tiles have different scenery built into it. You're building up the ancient city or medieval city of Carcassone, and you have either towns, farms, or roads. When you place down your tile, you have the option to possibly put down a meeple, which, by the way, this game is the one that invented the meeple.
Yep.
Just saying. You got to put down your character on either the road, the town, or the farmland, and that will potentially score you points as you are playing the game. If you complete the feature, meaning ending the road on both sides or walling off the town that you're in, or at the end of the game, scoring up your farmers. You're going to get points in different ways, and the most points at the end of the game wins. There's a whole slew of expansions that change rules on this. There's even a new version that made it cooperative, where you're trying to work together against ghosts. There's different variations. There's different themes on it. There's all sorts of different cool things, and man, I love this game.
Yeah, and it's a fine game. I really do like the co-op version. I did not put it on my list because we try not to do stuff like that. But the co-op one is actually really cool. I liked how that one works. But yeah, it's I like the game. It's showing its age nowadays. So. Well,
I mean that's fair, and I kind of burned you out of it, right?
Oh yeah.
You know, in a way, and again, I apologize for that. Listeners of the podcast know immediately why he sold his copy, but. Yeah, I mean, I still play it fairly often. I own all the major expansions that they've made for it, and most of the minor ones as well. Mm-hmm. And every time I just get it to the table, I just get happy. I'm like, man, I get to play my game again. I like this a lot, and I just enjoy myself every time. So, with that being said, our first category that we're going to be breaking down is ease of play. I'll be flipping my coin of doom, and that'll decide who will be going first. That's me.
Yep.
So, Carcassone is a really easy game to play. You literally draw a tile, and you place it pretty much wherever it can go. You want to optimize it, of course, and that's part of the puzzle, but you can't put a road going into a farmland. Like, that's not how it works, or a road going into town.
And you have to pay attention to all the other tiles that are in that area. Right. Because you can put a road, but you got to make sure it matches to the other sections that you're putting it against as well.
And not only that, there can only ever be one meeple per feature when you place the tile. So if I place it down on a road that's connecting a road that you already have a meeple down, I can't put mine on it. But later on, if I put it separate and find a way to combine them, then, you know, you can kind of fight for majority there. And so it's like a passive but impassive, like confrontation. Like, you have to puzzle your way into a way that you can argue for majority. And it's difficult to do. But, you know, once you get the hang of it, you do it. It's a simple game because you have to match up every single side. And when you put down your meeple is a really big choice. Because you're also limited to 7 meeples throughout the game. And one of them's on the score track. So, I mean, and only when you close the feature do you get your meeple back. So, I wanted a game where you're putting down tiles. I definitely had to do a tile laying game, a real simple one. Mm-hmm. And the way you put down your tiles is how you're going to score your points. And you have to plan accordingly for the tiles that you're given. Mm-hmm. So I picked Cascadia as my ease of play one. Okay. In Cascadia, it's a similar idea as far as tile laying, but there's a number of tiles and there's a number of little animal tokens. You pick the tile and the animal token that are next to each other, and you place it down. Certain animals can go on certain features, and the animals are going to score in different ways. So you have to figure out which way you're going to put your feature, how you're going to best benefit, and where you're going to put the animal that you're taking as well. And there's a little bit of
another Spiel winner.
Another Spiel winner, yep. Which I might have a couple more. You know, it's just one of those things where it's like it's really simple to understand, because like, of course the bears aren't going to go into like the desert part, right? You know, or whatever. You know, it's logical. Like, of course my robber's going to go into that road. You know, that's just, you're not there, why not? It's a huge road. I'm going to do that, right? So I feel like there's a lot of the same mental choice, but it's just as quick to learn, and you can teach it throughout the game. You don't really have to think, and by second or third turn, you're probably figuring it out. So Cascadia was definitely my pick for ease of play.
Okay. So my pick for ease of play, Cascadia is a good pick. I was torn with that one, and then I remembered there was actually a much simpler game. We're actually recently debated it not too long ago, and we're going to end up debating it again here in the next month when we do our next top 8 debate. And this is King Domino.
Yep.
Again, it's another one of those games where we qualify when it comes to ease of play. Is it easy to teach and learn? Mm-hmm. You're basically playing dominoes in this one, and so you are doing a tile laying game just like Carcassone is. You're building fields and features based on the coloration, I guess you can say. So you have like wheat fields, and you have like clay pits, whatever they are in King Domino. I forget the term on them. Yep. Very simplistic. You're basically trying to grow the biggest of a certain area this way you can score the points on there. And it's got a great production value for this one as well. Blue Orange did a really good job on this one. And again, like I said, it's just about matching the landscapes, kind of how you need to match the features in Carcassonne.
Yep.
And the scoring's real quick, simple. It's really, really a quick game at that, and it's much easier to get to the table than, say, something like Cascadia because of the variability of the changing of the scores. And the reason why I went with King Domino is the simplest of all the dominoes, other than the children's version, which is Dragon Domino, I think.
Dragon Domino.
And so for me, King Domino is just a much easier game than, say, Cascadia.
And also a Spiel winner.
Also a Spiel winner, yeah.
There you go. All right, now our next category is replay value. Here we go. That'll be me again. So replay value, we talk about how well does it scale with for the number of players. In Carcassonne, it plays 2 to 5 players, and it plays in like 30 to 45 minutes. It's pretty quick. It might take an hour if you're playing with some expansions, but it's overall a really quick game. You just draw a tile, place it down, that's about it. And we also talk about expandability. How many expansions does it have? And Carcassonne has at least 10 full expansions. And what I mean by full is like significant expansions that have like almost half as many tiles as the base game, and then they have a whole slew of probably like dozens of mini expansions, which is like a sheet of punchboard tiles or some meeples or something weird like that. They even have maps now that you could put and get like a scenario of like building across the United States or whatever, right? Super cool. It's super 10 is not many compared. I mean, it altogether it probably has, if you count the mini expansions, about 20 to 30 expansions easily.
I can only think of one other game that has as many expansions as Carcassonne. Dominion.
That's my pick for today. Because, I mean, you're building your domain, right? And Dominion has 15 full expansions plus promo cards. So, as far as expandability, Dominion was the pick for that. I mean, it just made sense. Because, again, it plays about that quick. The app version of Dominion is like a 5-minute game.
We're not debating the app.
I know, I'm just saying, like, for scaling, it's real simple, right? It takes you almost more time to pass the phone to the next person than it does for them to take their turn. So, it's super fast. It scales well. It plays 2 to 4 players for Dominion, but, good time for the amount of players. And just a slew of expansions. There's thousands and thousands of cards. And just as dry of a theme.
Very much so.
Yeah, very much so. I mean, you're building your Dominion. That's Carcassonne 2. You build the Dominion. And you're getting points.
This is a bit of a stretch, but sure.
No, for replay value. That's why I didn't pick it for anything else. But for replay value, yes.
Yeah, I'll give you the replay value aspect of it. It's not really the same feel as Carcassonne.
No.
Because you're talking about a tile laying versus deck building.
Absolutely. But in a way, right, if you're looking for a game that if you bought all the expansions, you'd be able to play this for years and not see all the content, right? Dominion is that as well. So I think Dominion is a perfect pick for this.
Sure. I can't really say really too much on the expandability and the replay value because the game I picked is very abstract. This one has a couple expansions. They just recently did a Kickstarter for a couple more expansions for this game. I ended up picking up a copy. You and me have both played this one while we were in Tucson and actually really enjoyed it. Can you guess what it is? And then there's a few promos for it too.
Played it in Tucson.
Mm-hmm. It's a neat puzzly thing. We played it at Snakes and Lattes in Tucson. Both really enjoyed it.
Project L?
Yes.
Really?
Yeah. Project L. It's abstract, but there is variability. And the thing is, you're taking tiles. You're trying to save tiles. You're building a little puzzle aspect on your own little board because you're trying to complete your different boards, so you have to follow the shapes and the sizes to complete that sort of card for you to get points. Kind of how like you're tile laying in a group in this one. This is closer to Carcassonne than Dominion other than the multiple expansions. So and that's my thing is like I'll bust it out right now. It's right over there.
I have a copy too. I like it.
It's closer into that...
not for replay value, though.
Yeah, it's got a couple expansions. The game scales very well and plays quickly. There's 2 criterias right there off our criteria list.
Sure.
It's got expandabilities plus promos. Not as many as, say, Carcassonne does, but there is expansions for it. The scaling does really well. It holds up to 4. I think some of the expansions allow it to go up to 5 or 6 players. So there's that capabilities as well. Mm-hmm. And I forget what the third part of replay value is. Let me check real quick. Minimum number of plays to get the full experience. You play Carcassonne once, you're going to get the full experience. And same with Project L. So it hits every single one of those criterias on there. It just doesn't have as many plethora expansions that Carcassonne has.
Sure.
So
I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm just like, I would not have picked, I would not have expected this, right? That's all I'm saying. Like, I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm just like, whoa, okay.
Yeah, and this one where it felt the best. There's one other spot it would really go for me on this one, and that's art and production, but the game that I put there feels a little bit better in the art and production part.
Fair enough. Yeah. All right, cool. Let's move on to meaningful choice, which personally I think Carcassonne has a lot of meaningful choice in it. Like, I mean, you're just laying down a tile and then possibly putting them people. Okay, go ahead.
Because you've already talked about this game. So the reason why I decided I will go first, it is a crossover, and this one for me is in the meaningful choice part of things. This is Cascadia. Yeah, and so, again, everything you said, it's a simple game. Everything about this it's so simple. That's why I have no problem with you putting it in ease of play. But for me, it's because of the scoring and how different that it becomes, makes you have to be more cognizant of how you're putting your pieces out there. And so that's why King Domino was in my ease of play compared to Cascadia, because you have to be very smart how you place your things, because not only are you going to score based on the animals, you're also going to score if you have the largest grouping of a certain area. So do I forego doing like sea stuff and just go straight into like the Arctic or forest and stuff like that? So you got to be cognizant of what you're doing there. So there's a lot more meaningful choice. I also love the smart drafting mechanism that Cascadia has, where normally you only choose one tile and one token. So are you choosing the token, or are you choosing the tile that it's paired to? However you're doing that. Unless you have little acorns or pine cones, and you could spin that to make a choice where I'm like, I'm going to take this tile with this animal, but then you're losing points by spinning those pine cones, because they're points for you at the end of the game as well. And so that little push and pull makes you have a lot of very smart choices in how you're doing this and how you're trying to set up your animals as well, for they can score properly.
No, that makes sense. First off, before we argue, because I don't think we will, but I 100% agree with you. The only reason I put it on ease of play and not this one is because, you'll see why. The one I picked for meaningful choice is Beacon Patrol, which is a new game from Pandasaurus.
I haven't played this one, so.
And the reason I picked this one is because it's a cooperative game where you're trying to play out a certain number of tiles and score them based on how you lay them out. But part of the game is that you have to sail your boats around. And so if you put it in a way where you're in like a little cove and it's surrounded by islands, you still have to be able to put tiles adjacent to where you are. So that's like kind of a dead end that you have to maneuver around, trying to get the islands in the right place. And so a lot of Carcassonne, a lot of the strategy is that like when you get really into it, is less of like how am I going to score the most points. It's like more of how am I going to help mitigate all the points you're scoring, right? And so that push and pull of like, I need to position myself in the right place to be opportunistic when the time comes. And since you're all working together on the same map in Carcassonne, Beacon Patrol, you're all working on the same map in a cooperative sense. But you have to get your boat in the right position to lay down the tiles you have in the proper way. And so I figured Beacon Patrol is a great example of, it has just as much choice in it. It is a tile laying game still. You definitely affect the other player's strategies, and whether it's competitive or cooperative, it works either way. Just your long-term strategy, you have a lot that you can consider mid-game. So Beacon Patrol was my pick for meaningful choice.
I still need to play this one. It looks really good. I do want to pick up a copy of it.
It's fun, yeah. I enjoy it.
All right,
Game Immersion looks really good too. Game Immersion, here we go.
All right, this one's me. So this one is one that you haven't played, and I put in this one because I went back to one of our older criterias when it comes to game immersion. Does the mechanism fit the thing? Because you do kind of feel Carcassone is very or is so more mechanistic than it is like getting immersive. Yeah.
Right.
This one that I picked is a relatively new game that I just recently received. It's just going back to Kickstarter backers. I think it gets its worldwide release into retail, I think, next month.
Oh, wow.
And this is a Thunderworks game called Stone Spine Architects.
Yep.
So instead of tile laying, you are basically making a 4x4 grid of cards, basically building a labyrinth. You're a bunch of minotaurs in the world of Ulos, is what it's called, the role player world. Mm-hmm. And you're making different labyrinths for people to test and skill. And so you're being smart how you lay that out, because if you can connect your entrance to your exit, you'll get points based on how many cards go into that row or into that exit. So you're going to get points based off that. You're also going to get score points based off of cards that you're going to end up drafting throughout the game that gives you into game scoring. Plus there is a public objective that everybody's trying to do, so the person with the most goblins in their labyrinth and sort of stuff like that. And there's a little smart auction aspect of it, so you're trying to get more tokens to put into your labyrinth as well to help you score those points based on either your personal goals that you're drafting throughout the game or your public objectives. But at its core, you're still placing a 4x4 grid and trying to follow a pattern like you would in Carcassone. So, and then there's parts that where, like, okay, you have a stone dungeon, so you want to kind of group them together because that's what the scoring is. So think of it as like you're trying to connect the city into like a farm and feed the farm. So you want to get as much of a column or row or grouping of them together because it's going to score you more points based on that grouping. Okay. And so you do really feel very immersive in this one because you do feel like, oh, I'm being a very clever minotaur building, because I'm being an architect and trying to build the best labyrinth, and you're also paying attention to what everybody else is doing and be like, oh, I don't want them to get this because I know for a fact they got that grouping where they can get this specific tile. If they get into that certain section, it's going to give them a lot of points. And so you have to be very smart about taking that card. And this would work for me because some of the stuff that's on that card will work for my scoring. So not only am I hate drafting someone, but I'm also helping myself because it's going to look really good in my labyrinth. So yeah, it's a very smart little quick game. Like I put here, it's a fun little dungeon builder. And it are one of our caveats. It does lend to those memorable moments. Yep. The one time I've played this, and mind you, I've only played it once, but we were making fun of each other. We were getting into that role playing. You could watch what someone else drafted, and they would be like, "Why did you take that away from me?" Or they were hoping it was going to come back to their hand, and then it was gone, and so. That sort of stuff was really good. But this game is really fun to lose because when I played it, I'm like, yeah, I'm a bad labyrinth because my entrance did not match my exit, so I got nothing for that. So it was really neat. Or I needed a bid for something specifically because I needed to connect those two sections, so I needed to get a secret door and stuff like that. So yeah, no, Stone Spine Architects, that's my game immersive.
All right, so the one I picked, interesting. I do need to try that one, actually.
It's really cool.
That sounds interesting, actually. The one I picked is one that you have not played, actually.
So you have two that I haven't played.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah, this one, it's been around for a long time, and I know it's probably harder to find, but I still want to give a recommendation just because it really does feel it. Because one of my favorite moments in Carcassone is when you sit back and you look at the monstrosity of a town that you created, and you're like, how in the world did we get here? And why is there 12 churches all next to each other? There's a massive town here, and everything else is just tiny two-tile towns. What went wrong in this planning, that caused
I know where all the churches are right there. That's Main Street.
Right, that's Main Street, right. and there's a moment where you're like, man, this is ridiculous. How did we get to this point? We knew what we were doing. We knew why we were doing it, but what did this create? This is awful, right?
Yeah.
And I love that because it's so funny because I always tell people when I teach them this for the first time, it's like as soon as you're done, sit back and look at the whole picture of what you just made because you're so right here at the whole time. So I wanted to pick a game, and I knew part of this is since you don't know the trek and the paths and the combinations that you're going to be making, I wanted a game that does that. And this game is about exploring the Northwest Passage. This is called Expedition, the Northwest Passage.
I haven't played it because you haven't brought it over.
I brought it over once and we never got to it. That was the frustrating part. No, so the way this works is you all start up on the northeast corner of the board, and you're trying to find a way westward through the Northwest Passage. And you're laying down either square tiles or domino-shaped tiles that have icebergs on it. Some have cairns on it, some have different other things, and you're also trying to find what happened to the ship that went through there and got lost. You're also trying to find information about that. So there will be a point in the game where there's also a beautiful like disc that's part blue, part yellow on brand that rotates around the board, and when as it's rotating around the board, the line that it is on, that's the difference between water and ice. And so if it's right there in the center, then that means the bottom half of that board, or the top half of that board, is just iced over. You cannot travel through it via boat. So you're either trying to maneuver down under it, or you need to launch your sleds. And at that point, you split apart your workers. Some stay on the boat, stationing out where you are, and some are taking the actions on the sleds, moving from tile to tile. But knowing that it's going to warm up and eventually get back to that, and you don't want to be caught away from your boat when you're stuck on an iceberg, because then you're going to have to double back. There's such a cool little twist to it. And then you just because even if you don't make it to the end and find the Northwest Passage, you'll get a lot of points if you do. But as long as you make it back, that's all that really matters. Because that if you don't make it back, you're pretty much done. And that's one of the big things. Like you can just focus around some of the icebergs and get points in different ways and explore, and then make it back on time long before anybody else does and be okay. But if you get to that Northwest Passage and you discover it, it's really cool. So I like this game a lot. I used to play it a lot on Board Game Arena. This is one of the earlier games I was on there, and I liked it to my place. So much I bought a physical copy, and it's been out of print for a long time, but I like it.
Yeah, I try to keep things that are in print, so as I say this, we'll go into the next one.
My next one doesn't count for that either, so let's go for art and production.
So this one's me, art and production. And like I said, Project L could fall into this category, but I went with this one. And this is a one that it is kind of hard to find, but if you get a copy of this, go ahead and grab it, because Days of Wonders knocks their productions out of the park. And I went with this one just because it has a very interesting... It is tile laying, but it's kind of more of a grid on your personal thing.
Okay, yep.
And it has a very interesting...
Does it happen to be a 4x4 grid?
Yes, it is.
I think I know what it is.
Oh, yeah, what is it?
It's Quadropolis.
It is, very much so. One, Days of Wonder knocks it out of the park usually with their production. Even like The River, even though it's not one of their more popular games, the production value on that one is through the roof. Mm-hmm. This one is just the same way. It's more of a city building game. But what I like about it, if you guys have played Meadow, you would like how this one works, the way the mechanism is, because you have like a set of numbers. I think it's 1 through 4, if I remember correctly. Yep. And then where you're pointing is how far you can go onto the board, whether it's the left or right. And there's always a section that's blocked off because of the architect, I think is what it's called.
Yep.
And so you're basically trying to put your number there, and then wherever your number, what number it is, you go down that row or column that many spaces. So if I'm putting the 4 on the right side of the board, I have to go 4 this way and grab the very first one on the left side, in a sense.
Yeah.
And so I love that aspect, and you're trying to pair up locations, or you're trying to get this park next to these residential areas because it's going to score you more points. I love that little aspect of it, because like this could have gone into meaningful choice as well, and just because of how you have to build your personal city, and smartly, because you're also required when you draft it has to go into that certain section on your board. It either has to go in the 2 column or the 2 row, or where they meet up and stuff like that. So it has a very interesting push and pull. So you have to be smart when you're doing this and smart where you're doing that. and I really need that piece, but it's not going to go where I need it to go. So I got to figure out how I can get to that piece over there. Okay, if I use my 3 and go this way, and then I can grab that piece, and now it goes into the spot where I need it to be. And so I love that push and pull, that very unique drafting mechanism, and it's really well designed. I wish they supported this one a lot more than some of their other games.
They had a single expansion for it, and it was a small expansion.
So Quadropolis, my art production pick.
That might be one of my favorite Days of Wonder games. Like
it
next
is
to Ticket to Ride, I think it's probably like number 2.
It's up there for me. I think I like. Actually, I think I like it more than Five Tribes. Five Tribes is one of my favorites. I do. Ticket to Ride is one of my favorites.
Better than Yamatai.
I do like Heat a lot, but I need to play it more before I make a decision on that. But it's up there.
That works. And the last one I picked for art and production. So I said this at the top of the episode. Carcassone invented the meeple. Like, that is a little miniature person. If you don't know what a meeple is, just search online for meeple. It's mini people. It's what it's supposed to be, right? And it's this little wooden figure that made out of wood, colored different colors, and you can lay it down or have it upright or on its side, whatever, right? It invented the meeple. And it wasn't originally called that. Apparently, like, there was some people online that found like the original statement of who called it a meeple and how that stuck, and like there's a whole thing about it. It's wild. But and then it has really nicely made tiles, and you are placing them out, and it's like a puzzle. So I was like, I want a game that utilizes both the meeple and the tile in a unique way, and that's kind of the main focus. And this game, you are building or using the meeples to create towers with the tiles, building buildings. It is a dexterity game that I don't believe is in print. This is Terror in Meeple City.
It is in print. It's just under a new name.
Terror in Meeple City.
Oh, yeah. Well, it's Rampage.
It used to be Rampage, but that apparently that was totally not...
I think it's still in print. I see copies of it in the wild. So.
Yeah, I mean, Terror in Meeple City, it's a hilarious dexterity game. Your kaiju monsters, similar to video game Rampage. Don't know why you make that association. Yeah. But you're trying to knock over these towers that are made up of the meeples. When you knock them over, if they fall into your region, you can eat the meeples for different ways of points. And you can also collect the tiles as points as well. It's just a really ridiculous thing, and it uses meeples and tiles in a unique way that I haven't seen in most other games. So I just had to bring that up. As far as the production, great production.
Oh yeah,
really good art. Hate the new name, but whatever.
I understand why they had to do it, and they had a lot of copyright infringement too on there. Yeah. So you see like the Ninja Turtles peeking out of the sewer, and then you see Captain America's shield on one of the roof pieces.
That's right.
So.
Speaking of Easter eggs, right? They have a lot of that in there. They even have other games like that they've published in like certain ones. Like Cash and Guns is a game that they published. That's in one of the tiles where it's like surrounded by people playing it. It's so hilarious.
I have one problem with Terror in Meeple City or Rampage.
Oh, yep. Go ahead and say it because I knew you were going to bring it up.
It's the blowing now that
post-COVID, yeah. There's one part where it's called the acid breath where you actually like put your chin on the monster and try and like knock things over or like move meeples by blowing at them.
Yeah.
Sure. That's fair. I don't blame you.
No, I found that part disgusting when we first played it before COVID, and now it's just
now it's a definite no.
Yeah, it's like, I'm good.
I mean, it's not that big of a deal. I don't think I get it.
No, it is that big of a deal. You've already given me COVID once. I don't need to be playing a game and you give me COVID, all right?
Yeah, that's true. But now, I really made sure I caught it after I was here. So I don't know that you didn't get... No, I'm just kidding. Anyway, Terror in Meeple City. That's an awesome game. And with that being said, hopefully you'll find out of those 9 games some recommendations that you like. And I think, use a balloon puffed up with a pump. There you go. And just blow the balloon at it. That's a perfect solution, Crate. Thank you. COVID solved. Wait, hold on. I guess that's not how it works. All right. If you enjoyed this episode, remember we're giving away that contest. Giving away the contest. Really? Giving away 2 copies of matches to 2 different lucky subscribers. Again, if you want to enter that contest directly, you can either follow us on Instagram, follow us on YouTube. We'll talk all about that in a bit. But again, email everydayboardgames2020@gmail.com. This is your best chance to get tickets. In the subject line, put contest. In the body, put burn, baby burn.
As well as a way of contacting you.
That's right. And Instagram.com/everydayboardgames. Don't forget that.
All video re-uploads found on YouTube under youtube.com/@everydayboardgames. If you like what we do, there are 3 things you can do to help us grow on that platform. Subscribe, which gives you a ticket, like the video, and comment down below and tell us your thoughts on the subject.
And if you ever want to join us on a live episode, like our friend Creative Chaos, or anybody else who joins us on a live episode, great, you've been awesome today. We appreciate you joining in, and we love our commentary as we're playing with the episodes. So join us at twitch.tv/everydayboardgames.
As well as all audio versions can be found on most podcast platforms under Everyday Board Games Podcast. This includes Spotify, Google, Amazon Music, Podbean, and Apple.
So as always, I've been your host, Daniel.
And I've been your host, Daniel.
And we want to thank you for listening to Everyday Board Games.
And remember, every day is a good day for board gaming. Burn, baby, burn.